Hi, this is the Homework Tutors. In this video, we're going to be discussing the STAAR test for 6th grade math based off the May 2017 sample. Keep in mind that at the beginning of the test, you guys will have a reference sheet that has 4 equations on it in a ruler. And then there's also a second reference sheet page that has some length, volume, and capacity, weight, and mass, as well as another ruler with centimeters. One ruler has inches, one has centimeters. So those are always at the beginning, and then you also have some graph paper there at the beginning of the test. So keep that in mind. Let's start with number 1. This video, will cover the questions of 1 through 10. So number 1, which list shows the temperature in order from coldest to warmest in degrees Fahrenheit? So as you see in my chart here, I just kind of made just a basic -10 to 10 with the 0 in the middle to show you how cold and warm weather works. 0's in the middle. That's our median. When we start going negative, that goes colder. When we start going higher, that's warmer. It's simple as that. So any numbers in order to be in the correct order from coldest to warmest would need to have the furthest negative number going to the most positive number in order correctly. So in this case, A doesn't work because it goes -10, then it goes +8, then it goes back down to -5. That doesn't work. We can't go negative, positive, negative. It just doesn't work. B doesn't work because it goes -5, then it goes -10. However, -10, if we're going from coldest to warmest, will come first, then -5, because -10 is further from 0 than -5 is. When you deal with negatives, always think about how far is it from 0. That's the key. How far is it from 0? That's how you keep negatives and positives and stuff like that in order. C works because -10, then it goes -5, then it goes 0, then it goes 8. That's correct. And just so you know, D doesn't work because it does the same thing as A with going positive, negative, positive, negative. It just doesn't work. Number 2, according to grid is shown below. Which order pair describes a point that is located 4 units to the left of the origin and 2 units below the x-axis? So the origin is the very place in the middle of the cross. Okay, that's at the very middle. That's when they say origin, they're in the very middle. So when we move 4 units to the left, that takes us to the negative side of the coordinate grid, which takes us to -4. Then we go 2 units below the x-axis, which is the x-axis is the one that's going horizontal across. As you can see, it's labeled. So we're at -4. We go 2 units below, which also takes us into the negative, and that's going to put us at -2. Therefore, our answer is -4, -2. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory how I drew it in the picture. Number 3, a house painter mixed 5 gallons of blue paint with every 9 gallons of yellow paint in order to make a green paint. Which ratio of gallons of blue paint to gallons of yellow paint will make the same shade of green paint? So I have the ratio. The ratio is 5:9. The answer is A in this case. It's just a matter of finding another ratio that is equivalent. In my case, I know for sure 30/54 is the correct answer because if I divide both of those by 6, I get the ratio of 5:9, which means they're equivalent to each other. That's basically all you're doing in this problem, just finding equivalent. So you just have to find a number that you can divide by both or multiply by both, and it's going to match up with one of the answers that's given, A through B. In this case, is A. So you could have even figured that out either way. You could have thought 5:9 and went up the multiplication chart and tried to multiply and did times 6. And you would have thought, oh, okay, that matches 30/54. You could have did that way too. It just depends on how quick you are with your multiplication and knowing your factors and things like that. In this case, I knew it was 30/54, and I just showed divided by 6 to check myself. So either way works. Number 4. The students in class were asked to name their favorite meal of the day. The results are shown in the percentage bar graph. Which table could be represented by the percentage bar graph? So we have a bar that's going from 0% to 100%. And I want you to kind of think of this from 0 to 10. Same, it all matches up. But just saying, I put it 0 to 10 to try to kind of simplify things. So, for example, 50% I refer to as 5. Make sense? Okay. So, the breakfast, which is the darkest gray, goes from 0 to 3. That means 3 students had breakfast. For lunch, which is the lighter gray, goes from 30 to 40. Or 3 to 4. Which means 1 student had lunch. Or is their favorite meal of the day. And then for supper, it goes from 4 to 10. Which means 6 students said supper is their favorite meal of the day. This is a case of finding an equivalent to one of the charts below. And what I did was, all I had to do is find a common number that will multiply with the data I found up above, the 3, the 1, and the 6 students, that would be equivalent to one of the charts below in the options. And what I found with H is, if I multiply all my numbers I have by 3, it matches up perfectly with the H chart. So from the graph, I know 3 students had breakfast, 1 student had lunch, and 6 students like supper. Well, if I multiply all those numbers by 3, it matches up perfectly with the numbers in H. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 6 is 18. And that's why the answer is H. It's an equivalent problem. So it's kind of a 2-step problem where you have to break down the chart and then find the equivalent. Number 5. What value of X makes this equation true? So we have negative 90 equals negative 100 plus X. So let's plug in. Negative 100 plus negative 10 will get you 110. So a negative plus another negative number is going to get you still add those, and then your answer is going to be negative. I know some students get confused with, when it comes to integers, negative integers, when it comes to adding and subtracting, it's not as easy as with multiplication or division. So you kind of have to keep that chart in your head that I went over in problem number 1, with knowing negative numbers, the furthest negative number, 0, and then the furthest positive number. So when we plug in negative 100 plus 10, that gives us negative 90. And you might wonder how. Think of it like this. Think if we had a chart, just like how I showed in problem number 1, negative all the way over here, 0 in the middle, then your next positive number. We're at negative 100. Think you have a dot at negative 100. And then think they tell us to move. We have a positive 10 spots. We're going to move a positive 10 spots closer to the 0. But we're not all the way to 0. We're still in our negative side, but we move closer to the 0. Whereas with problem A, we were at negative 100, and then we had negative 10. We had to move another negative spots 10 ways. So the negative basically tells you if you're going left on the number line or if you're going right on the number line. If you're adding, you're going to go left. You have to go further back down to negatives. If you have positive, we're going right. We're going to move closer to the 0. That's the only thing I can tell you when it comes to adding and subtracting integers. Just try to keep that chart that I had number 1 with negative, 0, positive, and that should help you when it comes to adding and subtracting with negative integers. Number 6, a team of workers took 167.3 hours to complete a task. A smaller team of workers will complete the same task, but it will take them 1.25 times as long as it took the first team. Based on this information, which statement is true? So looking at the equations they have set up here, the first two, F and G, are they're adding, and then H and J, they're multiplying. Well, I already know this is a multiplying problem, so that automatically eliminates answers F and G, because as soon as it says it will take them 1.25 times as longer, that's kind of your key word to let you know that's a multiplication problem. Now, what's the difference between H and J? Because if you look at the equation set up the same, however, they have different answer outputs. This is just simply of knowing how to multiply correctly and how to use your decimals correctly to get the correct answer. As you see here on the page, I multiplied it all out for you. When you multiply decimals, you line up all your numbers the same. You do everything the same, just as usual. And then at the end is when you move your decimal. So you count how many numbers are after the decimal in each number. So we have one spot in the 167.3, and then we have 2 spots in the 1.25. So that's 3 spots we need to move our decimal, which is why the answer comes out to 209.125. Number 7, the playground at the park is shaped like a trapezoid. The dimensions of the playground are shown in the diagram. What is the area of the playground in square feet? This is a problem where you need to go back to reference your reference sheet, because it does have the equation for the trapezoid to find the area for it on there. I have went ahead and wrote it here. So to find the area for a trapezoid is half times base 1 plus base 2 times height. So in this case, in the trapezoid, the 68 feet is our base 1, the 36 feet is our base 2, and the 30 feet is our height. We plug all those in, and as you can see, I showed all the work. When you get done solving all that, you're going to get 1,560 square feet as your answer. So with that one, you just need to make sure you reference your reference sheet to get the equation, plug in the numbers, and solve correctly. Number 8, Lang has a goal of walking at least 18 miles. She walks at a rate of 4 miles per hour. Which inequality can Lang use to find H, the number of hours she should walk in order to meet or exceed her goal? As you can see, I underline meet or exceed because that is the key to telling us which one of these is correct. F is the correct one because, well, first thing, it has to be set up for H. It has to be set up with 4 miles times however many hours she walked to get our answer. So that eliminates H and J automatically. So that basically leaves us with F and G. And now the only difference between those two is the signs. And then that's why I underline meet or exceed, because F tells us FH, her answer could either be greater, which will go with exceed, or would at least meet, be equal to 18. Whereas with G, it's telling us her answer will be less than 18 or equal to 18. And we want her to meet or be equal to her goal, not be less than. So that's why it's F. Number 9, Leon wrote an expression that is equivalent to 30 plus 6 divided by 12. Which expression could be the one Leon wrote? So first of all, I went ahead and broke down what is the answer to the problem he had of 30 plus 6 divided by 12. When you solve that, the answer to that is 3. So all I did is basically went through each one and solved it all the way out. Once you solve it all the way out, as you can see on the video, on the sheet here, the only one that equals 3 is D. You have to be careful with these because you have to make sure you're doing your order operations correctly. Remember, it's parentheses first, multiplication, division, and then addition or subtraction. And always remember that we're going from left to right when you do your order operations. Oh, and I forgot exponents, but we don't have any exponents here, so I didn't mention that. But just make sure you do your parentheses first, and then in this case, on these problems, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, left to right, to know, make sure you're doing your order operation correctly. And lastly, number 10, in triangle XYZ, the measurement of angle YXZ is 50 degrees, and the measurement of angle XYZ is 75. What is the measurement of angle XZY in degrees? So I just made a basic little triangle here, XYZ. As you can see, for the corner of YXZ, I have 50. And then for the angle of XYZ, I have 75, which means I need to find the other angle. For triangles, everything equals up to 180. So you want to have 180 minus the other two angles. We have to add those two angles together. So as you see, I've set up the equation of 180 minus 50 plus 75. And I put those in parentheses because we need to get those together first. And then we can subtract that from 180. So 50 plus 75 is 125. You subtract that from 180, you get 55 degrees as your answer. And that concludes the STAAR test for 6th grade math for the May 2017 edition. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you.